Yep.
I would like to welcome everyone tonight to the June 23, 2025 regular board meeting for the town of Aberdeen. We welcome all that are here, appreciate you being here, and those that are at home that may be watching or listening, we welcome you also. There are agendas on the table when you came in if you would like to pick one up and to follow along as we do this. And there is a time for public speaking if someone would like to speak for public speaking. And if you do, please fill out a form and give it to the clerk so we'll know who you are. With that said, we're at item number 1, call to order, which we just did, and A is Pledge of Allegiance, if you would rise. Thank you. Close out item number 1 and go to item number 2, which is setting of the agenda.
No changes, Mayor.
All right.
I'll make a motion. We set the agenda as written.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Close out 2, go to number 3, consent agenda. All items listed below are considered routine or have been discussed at length in previous meetings and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion will be held except on request by a member of the Board of Commissioners. A, consider approval of minutes of special called meeting on May 27, 2025, regular board meeting of May 27, 2025, closed session of May 27, 2025, and work session of June 9, 2025. B, consider approval of resolution number 25-10, accepting financial guarantees for sidewalk improvements for Phase 4 of the Bethesda Forest Residential Subdivision in the amount of $70,938. C, consider approval of fiscal year 2024-25 year-end budget amendments for the general fund. D, consider approval of fiscal year 2024-2025 year-end budget amendments for the water and sewer fund. E, consider approval of amendment audit contract for fiscal year 23-24 with Misty Watson. And that's it for that one.
I make a motion
I have a
that we
question.
approve the consent agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
About
She
the
has a
audit,
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
sorry, about the audit, are we getting any kind of negative feedback because of the lateness, or, I just wanted to know.
We're
about
still good. You're gonna discuss the budget.
He
I mean,
is.
the
the audit?
audit tonight, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, I'll listen.
yeah, we'll if you want to
I
wait
will.
to let
Mhm.
him get to the microphone,
Okay.
he'll discuss it for you. All right, somebody made a motion.
Teresa.
And there was a second.
Second.
All right. Further discussion on item number 3. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Close out 3. We'll go to number 4. All right. Informal discussion and public comments. Does anyone, let me do this right quick. Does anyone have a public comment that they would like to speak before we start? Anyone? Okay, so then, thank you, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. How y'all doing today?
We're
Good.
good,
Great.
thank you.
Tonight, I'd like to introduce our newest officer to the Aberdeen Police Department, Michael Scheifer. Officer Michael Scheifer was born and raised in New Jersey. Officer Scheifer started his law enforcement career with Point Pleasant Police Department, New Jersey, as a special law enforcement officer in a non-sworn capacity. Officer Scheifer moved to North Carolina, Moore County in 2024, started working with Richmond Pines Police Department. In April 24, he went to St. Hills Community College for VLET, in which he finished. He came to Aberdeen Police Department in May. His mother, Chantel Scheifer, will hold the Bible for him.
this is always an occasion when we get a new officer. And welcome to Aberdeen, and welcome to the Aberdeen PD, which is the finest in Moore County by far. So you came to the right place. Thank you for doing that. Thank all of you that are back here in blue for what you do for the citizens of Aberdeen. Everybody appreciates it. It's sometimes not thanked enough, but I would like to thank you, and I know the board thanks you for what you do. Thank you. I close out 4 and go to number 5, which is manager's report.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, again, as always, you've got the departmental reports in written form in front of you, which is a summary of the month's activities for each department. And just a few highlights on a few other items outside of the statistics and other weekly reporting. If you may recall, last month, the Board of Commissioners voted to replace the old water fountain at the lake park and also do some work to try to get rid of some of the algae and other unwanted growth on the, particularly shoreline of the lake, and all that has occurred. So the water fountain is up and running. Chief Richardson's in charge of the lighting of that on a regular basis now. So it has multiple options, mostly holiday oriented. You can do your own personal thing with colors. It's got a pretty good array. So I think the fire chief has instructed a few others, so there's multiple people who can actually change the lighting. But the idea, unless there's a different, just take a look at it when you can. But like during the 4th of July and national kind of days, it'll be more the red, white, and blue theme. Christmas, we'll do the green and red theme, and just kind of keep with that. But we do have some other options. If you have a good idea, we'll be happy to try that. The only thing is, like this time of year when it gets dark pretty late, I think the shut-off is at 10 o'clock? Yeah, 10 o'clock. So really it's only about an hour and a half, 2 hours of light now. But as you know, that will change pretty radically. Come wintertime, that'll be like, from 5:30 up until 10. It'll be a pretty significant time. But anyway, it's a good fountain, and it's done well. The firm has also done a couple of treatments on the other growth in the lake. So they've done that treatment. We've got them set up to do future treatments, as the year goes on, to kind of really get a handle on that growth. So we think by July 4th, things will be in much better shape, Mayor, than they were previously. So we're glad to get that done and try to keep an eye on that growth and see if we can't really just do what we have to do to maintain it and keep it under control. On the insurance side, we did move into a new insurance carrier, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Regina and Jamie have worked really hard of getting the new medical cards out. It doesn't start until July 1, but that's a transition for all the employees, but we feel the coverage is going to be excellent. So I think the staff's excited about making that move, but when you're going with the doctor, who's your doctor, and your pharmacy, there's always some transitional things you've got to deal with. So we're working through those for the next month to kind of make sure everybody's got the coverage and got the good coverage that we're offering with Blue Cross Blue Shield. So moving through that process, but so far so good. Also, just as and it's in the, it is in the report. I think it was in the weekly report last week. But Dean and his crew, primarily Tim Bird, were working on the fiber connection to the auditorium, the old gym at the Aberdeen Elementary School. And so Conterra did that for no charge. That's a significant investment by them to kind of connect it from their line more on the street into the facility. I mean, it's not free once it's there, but so now we take it from the inside interior to spread it out to the place that we want inside there. So I just want to let you know, things are going well in that regard. We got a few things to work through, but it was placed in a room that's going to serve kind of as a control room for electronic things, HVAC, and other mechanical items that we need a central kind of office for. So we'll have that moving forward. Other thing is, I think Commissioner Lanning brought up the audit. Just while I'm talking now, yeah, we did have a good kind of indication. Really about a week and a half ago, I think, the auditor finally got through to the old audit firm that we were struggling to get information from, that was from last year's audit and the new audit for last year, or 2 years ago audit really, couldn't be completed without those notes and that background. It's just the way audits work. But she did unleash that basically and was able to get it about a week and a half ago. And so she feels good about filing the audit before the deadline, July 1. End of this week, I think Butch has told me Wednesday or Thursday is what they're looking for. So luckily, we're gonna meet that deadline without too much trouble. So, again, yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating and pulling our hair out, but that way, that'll be the last we have to deal with the prior auditor and our new auditor, and she has done a good job. We'll be Johnny on the spot and get things done in a timely manner going forward. So we're hoping that's the last of the challenging audits, we'll say. But so far, I think Butch has a draft in his office. So far, things look good, so we think it's a good audit. Is that what you're looking for? Okay. I mean, that's all I have for my report, unless there's some questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The first night the fountain was hooked up, Chief Richardson and his wife went down to practice the lights, and it's fascinating because it's remote, and it's programmed for holidays, just like the manager said a while ago. So you can hit a button which says 4th of July, and the lights in the fountain represent the 4th of July. And you can do Christmas,
Nice.
Christmas holidays, and it's a different set of lights.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's amazing what technology can do. And my wife and I went down to watch it, and it was nice, very nice. And the fountain is, you cannot tell the difference standing on the shore in the height of the spray. Now, it may be a little bit of difference, but you can't tell. And this one is not the old system that we had that we couldn't repair. This is a new system, so it should last much longer. It's got a warranty. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, so this, like he said, it gets dark at what, 9 o'clock now, but wait till the fall and this winter and coming into the spring, it'll be lit up a lot more than what it is now. But we can make it look like 4th of July on the 4th of July when everybody's down there, because it'll light up like the 4th of July.
So right now, it would be just white,
It's
we were
just
down
water.
there?
It's just water.
just water
Yeah,
black? Okay.
it's just water. Yeah. It doesn't do any, well, it does do some good, I guess, during the daytime, but it loses its effect
Yeah.
unless you get down there to look at it
Yeah.
and when it's changing colors.
I just
But
wondered if you're going to turn it on prior to the day of 4th of July, or maybe the week of, or do you have any idea what you might do? Let him decide? Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds good.
Like
Yeah.
Veterans Day, you could also do red, white,
Oh,
and
yeah,
blue.
we can, it'll do about any color you want.
What about, you mentioned something later about fish, for a possibility. Did anybody ever pursue that to find out if that was something we were thinking about doing to help
Was
with
it-
the algae, or is that even?
Well,
I just saw it in our notes, our minutes when I
yeah,
read them.
you remember we said that putting fish in there to eat algae, but I think, is that going to be necessary now, Chief, if you'll come up to the microphone?
Was it just before the fountain?
Foster Lakes and Ponds has done an assessment on it. We've done that in the past before, but sometimes there's some questions about the fish that you put in there. And it's a grass-eating carp, and the problem is those fish are very expensive, and then people want to go over and catch them.
I know it, that's what I was wondering. When I saw the notes, I thought, are we really gonna do that? Are we?
But Adam, the town entered into a monthly contract that goes 24 hours, or 365 days a year for it and Powell's Pond, that'll make sure that it's treated and maintained and kept ahead of it. We just had to get to, but that shoreline closest to our side to the building will be ready for 4th of July, and then the rest of it, it'll come in. And so now it'll be maintained all the time. That was part of the budget stuff that we did the other weekends, all incorporated into it.
Which means we probably don't need the fish
True.
now.
True.
Yeah. Yeah, and that would be we put the fish in there and everybody catches them and goes and fries them later on. So, yeah, so thank you, Chief. All right. Close out, is that all for the?
Yes, sir.
That's all for you. Okay, close out 5, go to 6, sales tax report.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to give you an update on the sales tax. Got some information since the last meeting we had. I put in front of you a large piece of paper with the latest sales tax numbers. And through the end of April, which we received in June, we'd received $3,174,000 in sales tax. And so if you annualize that, we would come in somewhere around $3,809,000, which would put us 103.66% of budget, or if you compare it to last year's actual, 104.03%. So we'll receive the next payment, while we don't have a meeting in July, then in August, we'll get it sometime between probably 15th and the 20th of the month. So I would know by then what our final number would be. Just want to give you a heads up. Also, one thing that you do not have a copy of this afternoon, that anybody is a water and sewer customer probably got an email that the bills went out. So the total amount of water and sewer bills that will book or account receivable for this month is a little over $450,000. And garbage fees will be about $76,000. So that will show up. You'll see that in the next report as well. So I just wanted to give you a heads up. That was hot off the press about 5:15. That's all I had. Any questions?
Can I pass this by, please? The town manager and I were at a meeting this morning with managers and mayors in Pine Bluff. The question came up, and I guess Paul answered it, and I'm not sure who answered it. The state budget is, we don't know where it's going to go. We're not sure it's going to be one for some time to go. Does the state budget have anything to do with the POW funds?
With POW bill?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
The answer is no normally, but they can always change the agenda statute.
Well, right now, I mean.
Right now, we're okay.
Yeah, the answer is that the budget may have to wait till later this year to get a budget if they finally decide to do one.
Normally what they do, they revert back to the current
Yeah,
budget,
yeah,
operating
that's what they'll
budget.
do,
It's
yeah.
how they normally handle that.
Yeah,
We normally get the Powell bill money at the end of September, early October, and also end of December and January.
okay,
We don't get that on a monthly basis.
sure.
So Mayor, that means that, once in a while they'll tinker with the amount and change the per mile rate reimbursement. Usually goes up, if it does, but that just means unless they do something specific, which I think it would take action, which I don't see them doing, we'll just be under the same allotment that we were under this past year, which was not a bad amount.
No,
So we should be fine.
yeah, that was brought up this morning in the meeting, so I just wanted to get your expertise.
That's my understanding, but they can, legislatures can change the rules
Oh, yeah, well, yeah,
anytime. I'm not saying they will, or they won't.
sure, sure. All right,
That comes out of the motor fuel tax, right?
That's correct. It comes out of the motor fuel tax. It has a special fund they set aside. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, there was a move afoot, and it never passed, where they were based it on road miles in a town or city.
yeah,
So you know where that was going. So did not pass the legislature. And as the manager said, they did tweak with the formula a couple years ago, wasn't that right, Paul? And so we ended up with a little bit more money for us, less for the larger cities.
okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'll close out 6, we go to 7, public hearings and new business. The first one's A, UDO text amendment TA 25-02 regarding certain procedures, zoning districts and overlay district standards and allowable uses, statutory limitations on building design standards and open space requirements. Ms. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor.
And this is a public hearing, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Nope, you're good. I need to pull up my presentation because I didn't get a chance to before the meeting started. Thank you, and board members. We're back again with more improvements to the UDO, and most of what you're going to see this evening is are relatively simple and procedural, and just to help us do a little bit better job and a little bit of cleanup. And then there's one more impactful item, which I'll spend a little bit more time on, and we discussed this very briefly at the work session, and that has to do with the overlay district for NC5. So these all came from the prioritized list of UDO needs that staff's been working on. This first one is one of the more simple ones and has to do with how the procedures for determining that an application is complete. There's been a section always in the UDO that asks for us to first review an application, regardless of what type, for completeness, communicate that to the applicant, whether more is needed, or whether it's deemed complete and further review can take place at that time. What we've discovered is needed a little bit more beefing up so that it can communicate better to the applicants, and so staff has a set of guidelines to follow. And then an important item was that it does currently refer to completeness requirements that are in the development guide. We have a development guide that has 2 chapters in it and needs further development, and there are no completeness requirements in the development guide. So we want to remove that language and then add something actually in the UDO. We really prefer it to be in the UDO anyway, but so that we're not having to transfer between documents to know how to process applications. So this is just a simple guide for applicants and for staff for what happens when you submit an application. We'll review it for completeness. We'll communicate as to whether it's deemed complete. If it's not, we'll give you a list of what needs to occur in order for it to be complete. And we do not undertake any more review until it's deemed complete. This is pretty standard, but we just wanted to clean this up and clarify it and make it really more user-friendly for staff and for applicants. The more impactful item, I think, probably more than any of the others tonight, and I'll spend a little bit more time on, has to do with bringing back a corridor overlay district for NC5. As I said, we mentioned this and discussed it briefly at the work session. We did have a highway corridor overlay district for many years that was applied to Highway 5. When the land use plan was adopted in 2019, one of the strategies was to eliminate what was on the books at that time and for staff to work through some enhanced standards that would be applied to a greater geographical area. And the planning board has asked about this a number of times. They felt that the overlay district was very useful. It has some enhanced standards to help protect that corridor, and you'll see in some of the details here what those are. They wanted to see us revisit that and bring it back in a different form, which is what we're doing. We are not at this time looking at the other corridors. We will undertake that at a later time. Each one of our priority corridors is what we're calling them, which means the major roads that go through. They're also very different in character, that to have one sort of broad brush set of regulations for them, we didn't feel was appropriate. So I'm going to start with NC5, and part of the reason for that is that we have some proposals in discussion for redevelopment along that corridor. We'd like to sort of get ahead of those if we can with some enhanced standards. We'll come back at a later time with standards for other corridors. I do want to mention, as a procedural matter, this is a zoning district, and I will show you why it's called an overlay district. So the action you take tonight will add the language to our UDO. It doesn't actually apply the district to any properties. We'll come back to you with a zoning map amendment, and at that time, each one of the properties that are affected will receive mailed notice. about the change, so that you'll be able to hear from them their concerns or support for the changes. So just very briefly, this is how an overlay district works, and it's just like it says. You kind of start at the bottom and go up, and it's like adding a layer of tracing paper over each one, and you start with the area that you're looking at that would be subject to regulation. The next layer is the underlying zoning district. So we have some light industrial, some heavy industrial, some residential zone properties, general commercial. That's still there. Then you go with your top layer, which is the overlay district. So anything where there's a conflict between the underlying zoning district and this overlay, the overlay is going to rule, because it's the very top layer, and it's a shorter set of regulations than the one beneath it, but designed to enhance and be specific to that area to which it's applied. As I mentioned before, this was just really reiterating that we'll look at other corridors at a later time. We do have a number of them that are undergoing some pretty dramatic changes, as we know. We'd like to get ahead of any redevelopment on those sites as that might occur. It might have occurred anyway, but probably even more likely with the widening projects that we're seeing on those roadways.
Pam, could you give us like an example of what possibly you foresee could happen if we were to not have an overlay district? Can you give us any type of specific example?
Well, you would just be subject, a property that was being developed would be subject to the rules that are in place now. And we think some enhanced standards are really warranted. I actually made some notes specific to that.
I know we talked about the, like maybe 2 rows of landscaping or things of that nature, like where Sheets has like several, even though that's Southern Pines, and the car place, it's like they had to also not just have a driveway in, but they also had to have some frontage.
Yeah, what I was actually just looking at before we got to this item was what is new in this overlay, in these regulations, that is different from what's there today and is impactful. One of the primary things that we want to address is congestion along that corridor, and so some of these standards are meant to limit the number of ingress and egress points directly from Highway 5 where there are other options. So I think as we see, especially some of the commercial development that we're expecting right against the highway, I think that's going to be very important to relieving some of the congestion that we might otherwise see. There are some enhanced landscaping standards. They're not egregious, but they're enough to give, to help protect that view shed, or maybe bring back some of what we've lost through the highway project. There are some others that I noted, additional screening of things like stormwater management, where there are stormwater management ponds that are needed to be near the highway because that's the lowest part of the site. We want those screened from the highway. We're trying to prevent distractions for motorists that are moving down, and hopefully make that highway a little bit safer. Some of the others are relatively minor, but I've worked with them in other ordinances. We do have some commercial properties near the highway that have residential properties directly behind them, or residential properties that might yet to be developed, and just simple things like if there's a business on the highway that has a drive-through, and we want to direct the communication device away from the residential properties so that there's not that disruption for those homeowners.
I got a question for you. If you're leaving Aberdeen and you're headed toward Pinehurst, on the right, is the 50-foot corridor setback, is that from the road or is that from the railroad tracks?
Yeah, it would be from what we can control, which is the right of way of the road, and didn't want to impose it for the railroad tracks because some of that is already really a great deal wider. That's still, you know, up for discussion, and we can certainly look at doing that a different way. I'm going to go through those images. That might have been, did you see that on one of the images that was in the packet?
I have not.
Yeah, well, I'll show you because, you know, there is a section up there where the right-of-way for the railroad gets really, really wide, especially as you see on that right side as you're heading north. So didn't want to add any additional impositions on those property because they're already
I was
sort of
wondering that
pinched
myself.
enough.
I think the railroad has a minimum of 60 feet. Is that what it is?
I do not know.
What is it, Mayor? I don't know. Because when I go through that little area like Food Line is, I continue to wonder, how are we gonna have 4 lanes there with, unless we go into the parking lot of Food Line?
I think it stops at,
Trotter Road's where it stops,
Mhm.
which is on up to Pinehurst
It
border.
stops
I thought it stopped at Linden. I thought it went back to 3 lanes.
Oh, no.
Linden.
It goes to 3 for a while
little
before it
bit.
goes back to 2. But I'm not sure where.
You mean now, or it's the
No,
4 lane comes in?
when they do the 4 lane.
I think the 4 lane, I think it next down there at Linden Road at the stop, when they put the stop lane in, and then it goes back to 3.
Then it goes back
To
to 2.
2. Yeah.
So it goes from 4 to 3 to 2.
Okay,
And unless they go through the parking lot at Food Line, I mean, they don't have any other.
there's no other room up there,
There's
the
no other
railroad
room.
track is like there, yeah.
Yeah, and they cut down all the trees in front of Food Line.
Okay.
And to Commissioner Helms' point, one of the items that you see here is that we are asking for a 50-foot setback for any buildings or parking from the edge of the right-of-way, which is more than that underlying zoning district would require now. But I think you'll see in the images that I'm going to pull up that, especially for the already developed properties, which are, by the way, exempt unless they redevelop the site, but you'll see, you know, if I'm going to build next to an already developed property, and I have this 50-foot setback imposed on me, I'm going to be very close to the same frontage as my neighbor, because a lot of those were already pushed back. But what we want to do is create some buffering landscaping in that area. So,
I have a question too.
mhm.
When you go on Route 5 and we have 4 lanes and we go back into the smaller 2 or 3 lanes, isn't that gonna cause a big backup traffic, because everybody's gonna merge into there? Is that what's gonna happen? They're gonna have to merge into the,
Well, I would say
smaller-
that, I know NCDOT is taking great pains to try to keep the continuous flow of traffic to the best degree that they can in those plans. And the
Yeah.
plans are actually not even finalized
Okay.
now. I asked them for the latest and greatest set, and they said, well, here's the latest and greatest, but these are not final plans. So, you know, Pinehurst certainly has some concerns about that, and we were speaking a week or so ago at the MPO meeting about a project that might go north of the railroad trestle there in Pinehurst to create some improvements along that stretch. So, because basically what we have now is widening of Highway 5, and then you do hit a bottleneck where they really can't. So we may see another project in the future from DOT to address that.
If you're going up towards West End, you know, it's 4 lanes till you get to West End, then it goes back to 2. If you travel, now they go 4 lane at it all the way through at some point, but right now, well, for years it's been 4 lane. You get up there almost to West End, it drops back to 2. Remember that? Watch the traffic. That's what you're asking. And it's how people start jockeying for position. All of us have seen that, and I guess all of us may have been guilty of it. You got somebody slow in front of you on the 4 lane, what are you gonna do? You're gonna try to get around them so you can get back on the 2 lane and not be held up trying to get through West End to 7 lanes. But my opinion, it will be a bottleneck on 5. I mean, what else can it be? It's gonna go 4 to 3 to 2. I don't know how you're gonna squeeze all that traffic from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. That's just my thoughts. Anybody else?
So I'm really just summarizing. Obviously, the actual ordinance was included in the packet, and it's several pages of changes just related to this one item. But I'm summarizing here what we're trying to achieve, and in some cases, it's just how you go, what's the procedure for establishing such an overlay, and it would be what we're doing tonight to actually create the language in the UDO, and then a second step, which is to actually add that overlay zoning to those properties that would be affected. And as I mentioned, some enhanced landscaping standards, the 50-foot setback, the actual, what portion of NC5 is affected by this, would be affected by this overlay, and then a focus on creating accesses between properties where you can, or entry from side streets where you can, so there are fewer driveways on Highway 5 as more properties develop. And we do expect to see more properties develop there. No changes in the allowable uses are being proposed, so whatever that R20 or light industrial district says you can do there, that remains. A couple of other items, one which I mentioned, I think, was to screening of loading docks and other items, and then using existing vegetation where you can, which that is already in our UDO, but we really want to focus on it here so that there's less additional cutting along the corridor, and to some degree minimizing the cut and fill, which means the grading of the properties, which also means you lose everything that's already on the site when you do that. Can't prevent it in its entirety, but we'll be focusing on that as we look at individual site plans. The density and lot dimensional requirements, lot size, lot width, are going to remain subject to that zoning district that's already there with these exceptions. And we talked a little bit about the 50-foot setback for buildings and for parkings, the access points, the stormwater management, and simple but potentially impactful things such as the speakers for any communication devices for the properties that are developed being directed away from adjacent residential uses. So I just want to mention that the UDO already has a list of overlay districts, and some you're more familiar with than others perhaps. So part of the amendment is to add this to the list. The watershed overlay, we're required by state law. Our local historic district is an overlay district, so it means that the uses that are allowed in the central business are still apply, but you have additional standards if you want to make changes to those properties that are within that district. So this is just another example. And I did create these maps just to give you a sense of how this affects the corridor itself. So what you see here is, in this sort of pale green line, is a 300-foot setback from the right-of-way. Any property within that zone would be subject to the overlay standards. And then you come in and you've got a 50-foot setback, which is that sort of more transparent item that you see there. And then what is supposed to be red but became out orange because of the layer that's above it is the actual right-of-way line. And I just drew this based on what is in our GIS now, and you'll see as we go through this that it varies somewhat significantly. A lot of these properties have already had some of their frontage taken by DOT for the highway project. So that's why you see these sort of jut outs as you move down. But you'll also see that some of the properties are already meeting the 50-foot setback. The ones that are already developed are already meeting that. And so new development would be more or less in line with what's already in place along the corridor. And so this is the top, very northern end of the overlay, because that's where our jurisdiction ends, up at Dawkins Street. And as you move down, it's fairly consistent, but you can also see that there's a lot of undeveloped property here. And I think we will see, especially on the west side, where there's not a railroad line to be crossed, we're going to see some of these properties come in for development in the coming months and certainly in the coming years. Moving down, that's Turning Leaf Way, so that's where you turn in to go to the landfill, and there's some residential development to the south of that. And then you start to get a little bit of a sense of how wide that 300 feet is, but it's also because the actual right-of-way is widening. You see it sort of looking something like a funnel as it's getting wider towards the southern end. And then this is where it gets really fun, because we're just following the highway right-of-way line, the NCDOT right-of-way line, as we draw our green line, which is the 300 feet, but it's a, you know, kind of jogs in and out as you go through the properties.
So can I ask a question about the green line again?
Of course.
So it's 300 feet, but, so are you saying there couldn't be homes in that 300 feet?
No.
Top?
It just means that, and there were some better examples, if I can come up here, and this is a little bit hard to see because these are all the parcel lines that you see in this sort of this, you know, pale peach, so they're a little bit hard to see, but just south of Ampersand Road, the green line is basically laying right over a property line. So that means that if the property on the east is redeveloped, they would be subject to it. These people on the west would not be. But then as you come down here to this one, for example, the green line transects the property. So only the portion that's within the green boundary would be subject to the standards. And they're not going to have any problem meeting a 50-foot setback because that's way over here. But it does mean that they might have to put some additional screening if they build a parking lot there. If they want to put their building really close to that green line, they may need to do some additional screening. But they're not very much affected. The intent is here to see the impacts there against the highway.
Well, it's just to keep, it's to look out for our town in case someone just wanted to throw something up, just because they can, right there on the side of the road. It's got to have more approval based on.
I think what we'll end up with is just the development, you know, with the way the highway widening project has gone, everything is just exposed. And I think what we'll do is we'll prevent more exposure, and we'll create some buffers for the development so that there's the effect of the exposure is less as more properties develop. It's a very good question, and I thought it might come up because
Right,
the more I look at the maps, the more I say, well, you've got, you know, a right-of-way line and the 50-foot beyond that. What does that 300 feet really do? It means that you might have properties that are already mostly cleared or developed right against the highway, but somebody behind them might have might need to meet some additional regulations so that there's less exposure, there's more buffering, let's say if it's a residential development in particular. And we're gonna see some of that. Did you have another question?
I mean, well, I guess what I was gonna say is we would hope that if it's a subdivision or a developed, you know, community, they would make it more of like Wynn's Way, where you enter it, you don't have like, as soon as you turn in, there's a house, you know, whereas in some places I've noticed with everything popping up around town, especially up in Carthage, if you've gone over to like Ag Center, I mean, the homes are like right there on the highway. You don't have any buffering, they're just, you know, built in rows.
Yeah.
And that just takes away from, making it look more natural.
Well,
So it's a good thing. I'm behind it all the way. I'm just saying, you know, what I've seen going up, you just don't know what we're gonna
that's exactly
encounter
right.
going forward.
I think that the regulations are needed we'd like to think that we're only gonna get the highest quality development in Aberdeen, but unless we have something to hold them accountable to, it certainly can't, it's certainly not guaranteed.
On the, doing this, we have to remember the north side of Highway 5 is the railroad corridor, and probably very little of that will be affected by this.
True.
You can't,
Right.
there's nothing over there,
Yeah.
there's no right of way that you can build
You're
anything.
right.
On the north side, basically, it's gonna affect the south and east side,
For the most part, that's
for
true.
the most part.
I mean, we don't expect to see any additional crossings of the railroad, with
No.
the exception of one way to the north that appears to be gaining some traction, and not necessarily a new crossing, but a crossing that moves from one street to another. So, but that being said, these really large properties that are on that east side, or those are the ones that are likely to see a great deal of development, and we're looking at one here now that could. They may only have one egress, one way to cross the highway, but they're still going to utilize all of the land that they can. So we'll be pushing them back a little bit more, and we'll be asking for some buffers. And the beauty of this slide in particular is that you see how much existing, now some of this is gone, because this wasn't taken, this was taken in 2023, but
Landmines at all there.
some of it's gone, but as you get farther away from the right-of-way of the road, a lot of it is existing, and we're encouraging them to keep as much of the existing as they can to meet these standards. We're almost to the bottom end here. There's really nothing, I just wanted to, this was as much a set of study slides for me as it was anything else, but I thought it might, help for you to see how it really affects the properties. Again, where you see existing development, they will not be subject to this unless they redevelop the site. And then we get to the bottom end of where we want to apply these, and I'll show you in the next slide why we stopped here, because there is a great deal of eminent domain that took place between this, the tail end of this green line and where Highway 5 intersects with US 1. And again, you'll see that most of these developed sites are they're either at that 50-foot setback or beyond it anyway. So newly developed sites should not find it overly egregious to meet the standards. And then the last image is really, again, we just moved from north to south, and it is hard to see these parcel lines, unfortunately, but you really have a great deal of property that was taken. This line that goes this way, and then that's all the DOT right-of-way now. And so we didn't want to apply any additional restrictions on those property owners. Feel like they've experienced enough. So that concludes that particular item. The rest of them I'll go through much more quickly, but happy to take any other questions that you have on this one or any of the ones that are coming up. I think we mentioned this at the work session when we brought to you some amendments to the plan development for Aberdeen Station. It was noted that we have an unusual category inclusion of funeral homes and crematoriums in the personal services use category. And that personal services use category, as you see here at the bottom of this slide, is really designed to be more about the things that we do every day. We go get our hair cut, or we go make some copies, or we go to the bank. So I was asked to explore options for that, which we've done. And what we did was we created a new use category of death care services, and we pulled out of that description of personal services, we pulled that language that refers to funeral homes and crematoriums out of it, because that was listing examples of personal services, and we wanted to pull that out. So now we have 3 sort of subcategories in this death care services. The first one is a funeral home or a cemetery without a crematory, so that's probably mid-range as far as these 3 categories, their impact to surrounding properties. And what we're suggesting is that where there's no crematory in the plan, that would be allowed in the office and institutional, in the neighborhood commercial, in the general commercial, and in the light industrial districts. Then the next subcategory is the most impactful, and that would be a crematorium, and regardless of whether it's associated with a funeral home or not, or if it's standalone, we're restricting that to just the light industrial and the heavy industrial districts. That's our recommendation. And then the last one, which is just for a cemetery, that's accessory to religious institutions. We have a lot of those. Those would be allowed in any of our zoning districts, as are religious institutions. They're allowed in any of our zoning districts. So this was our recommendation for a fix to sort of ensure that you're not next to a crematorium when you go to the bank or to get your hair cut. And this just shows where we're pulling that example language out of the personal services. We're just removing the funeral home and crematorium language from there. We brought a text amendment to you recently that relates to state statutes that limit our ability to impose design standards for most residential uses, everything but multifamily. And it was approved. After I went to update the UDO, I realized that there's another section of the UDO that refers to it as well. And so we're asking that we also change that to come into line with state statutes. And we're just using the language from the statutes, which is that all structures that are subject to the North Carolina Residential Code, which is all structures other than multifamily structures, are exempt from design standards. Multifamily structures are reviewed under commercial code. They're subject to the commercial building code. So we're just borrowing their language, so there's not any confusion, or we're not missing something in this change. This is just really procedural. We do have building standards that apply to multifamily and non-residential buildings, and we didn't have really a step in our process for when we reviewed that. What we don't want to happen is to have the project approved by TRC. Yes, everything's good with your site, for example, and then they come over for a building permit application, and we realize that they're not meeting the architectural standards, because now they've already invested, they've made an investment in the plans themselves. So we want to review that really early, and so this suggestion is that we review architectural standards at the time they go to TRC, early in the process. This is just another cleanup. We have a section in Chapter 6 that refers to a document that's known as the Aberdeen Stormwater Best Management Practices Design Manual. I really wish we had such a thing, but we don't. So we want to pull that out, and we're really just going to defer to the UDO as a whole and to state requirements, NCDEQ requirements instead. Maybe one day we'll have that. Joe, you think we'll ever have? No? Okay. So, and this is how that looks. It's, we're just sort of clarifying what it means to, oh, this is a different, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a different standard, which has to do with the watershed. We're trying to clarify this section that says how to use this section, which is about the water supply watershed, and it refers to applicability, and then there's a list of items that really aren't about applicability. The standards apply if you're in the watershed, and we can help you determine that. You know, it's pretty simple. The county's GIS maps show it, but once it's determined that you're in the watershed, then there was a list of items that that we would look at as we're reviewing that. So we just wanted to clarify what that section is really trying to say. And then this second section is where we're saying that those lands will be subject to the UDO and to DEQ requirements, and not the the best management practices manual that we don't have. Coming to the tail end here, this we felt needed to be addressed right now. Our subdivision standards call for the default condition for what happens with open space is that it would be dedicated to the town, and that the public works director would be the one to determine whether we take it or not. My history with Aberdeen is that we have steered away from accepting open space. Sometimes this can be many, many acres. It can be wetlands. It can be you know, properties that really aren't suitable for parks or other sort of recreational activities. And it's a lot. It would be a lot of maintenance if we took every single open space that we required the developer to set aside. So we're just sort of flipping that back to what we've worked with before, which is that the developer is going to be responsible for the open space, or he's going to turn it over to an HOA. He or she will turn it over to an HOA. If the town does want it, if they want to offer it to you, then they can do so, but it will be the Board of Commissioners' decision as to whether it's accepted or not, and not staff. You okay with that? I thought you might be. And this is just what that looks like. It strikes the language that talks about it being accepted by the town, and it adds this language, which it says, unless we're requiring that they dedicate it, the default condition will be for the developer to maintain it. And then at the very bottom, we're asking for a covenants and restriction or document or something similar that shows that that developer or his or her successor is going to be responsible for the maintenance. And then this last part, which I think is important, if we're going to take lands, even if they're offered to us voluntarily, I think it is more appropriate for the board to make that decision. This very last thing has to do with just cleaning up some items in the definitions chapter. We just wanted to make it clear that a conservation subdivision is only a conservation subdivision if it meets the standards of that section of the ordinance. For some reason, our greenway definition states that a greenway is only a greenway if it's the town's greenway, and we might have occasions where we're okay with the developer building a greenway of his own and the town not taking that. So we're cleaning up that a little bit. We did the same thing with open space as far as saying open space is only open space if it meets the requirements of the ordinance. And our planning board in particular wanted to add undisturbed areas and natural areas. I didn't include the undisturbed, but they were adamant that they wanted those to be options for open space. All of the rest of this is stuff that you already know, and it's how we go about making these decisions. We have drafted a land use plan consistency statement. The planning board met on this in May and recommended approval by unanimous vote, and also recommended that the board adopt the draft consistency statement. They made a couple of very minor changes to the ordinance, which I just mentioned, having to do with open space. And that's what we brought to you tonight. And I include these in the packet in the staff report, but it's also the actual consistency statement is in your staff report. And we just look through that land use plan and see what provisions in it either support or not what we're bringing to you. And we're required to do that by state law for text amendments and zoning map amendments or rezonings. So we've found several goals and even longer list of objectives that we think provide support for what we're bringing to you this evening. And I'm happy to take any additional questions you have, and if you're ready to make a decision on this tonight, we've provided some motions, recommended motions for you.
Thank you. All right, we all heard and read what was proposed. Any questions before we go any further? Somebody want to make a?
I
Well,
make a
that is the
motion.
public hearing,
It's
I'm
public
sorry.
hearing.
Oh, that's
Public
got to
hearing.
post public
We
hearing.
can't make a vote on it yet. Is there anyone here that would like to speak about this public hearing? Anyone? I don't hear anyone, so I'll close the public hearing. Now,
I make a motion that, motion one, the proposed zoning text amendment TA 2502 is consistent with adopted plans of the town of Aberdeen for the reason identified in the draft statement of land use plan consistency, and recommends that the statement be adopted.
Second.
motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries.
I make a motion the Board of Commissioners approve the proposed zoning text amendment TA 25-02.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Anyone? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank, I know that this is, these are heavy lifts for you and for the planning board when we bring this many to you at one time, and I just want to express my appreciation for you being open to these changes. We would not go through the effort ourselves if we didn't think that they were very important for the town.
And thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks for all your
that's-
work.
That's a lot of work. Thank you.
It certainly is. It's a
You-
lot of work, and thank you.
All
You're
of
very
your,
welcome.
all of your staff, please
Yeah.
let them know that we appreciate what they do.
I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you. B, consider approval of purchase of a new heavy rescue truck, Atlantic Coast Fire Truck,
Well, tonight, Mayor gets his wish, we get to get a truck.
in an amount of
Hopefully. This is, Mayor
$514,500
Council.
to authorize staff to sign documents. Now,
Okay. This is the truck that we've discussed over the last 2 budget years. This is to replace a 24-year-old heavy rescue truck that we have. We, during the last 2 budgets have discussed it. Last year it got pushed back 1 more year. This year we were able to go ahead and secure a vehicle that we thought would fit and everything else. With the rising prices and everything, the lead time for us to get the vehicle in is 18 to 24 months. It had got up to 36 months for a truck like this. Now, this still ain't called, regular fire trucks and ladder trucks are still up to 4 years.
Yeah.
This is a truck that will be used to carry rescue equipment on our Hearst equipment, airbags, it'll have scene lighting, water rescues, stuff on it, and all kinds of stuff like that. I also have a hydraulic pump on it for like a heavy rescue for like a train accident, a tractor-trailer accident and everything, so that we can do this. And basically,
Does it
replacing
look
the
just
truck we
like a-
have.
I'm sorry, does it look just like the regular fire truck? How does it,
no,
what is this body
To
style
me,
of
it
this
doesn't,
truck?
but I mean, it's,
I mean,
It's more
it's
box.
a big
it's a
box
box
on the
truck.
back
It's a
of
big
it.
box.
Okay,
It's just got a great big
Put a
old,
bunch of bay doors on it.
Yeah.
for
I don't know how
equipment.
else to put it, like a souped up.
it would just
Coca-Cola
accompany the
truck.
actual, ladder truck to a fire? Or would it be something that would be
This is for crash.
called
This is
in
for
in a
crash. This is
special
for
occasion?
accidents
Okay,
and
Right,
it
right,
carries
right.
service equipment, it carries extra ladders, carries, it's the one that mainly goes to automobile accidents.
okay, it wouldn't go on any fire calls. It would be
It
going out.
does go on
Could.
fire trucks, on fire calls because of its scene lighting and some of the equipment it has on it. And there's an advantage to taking it on some fire things to get ISO points because it's not a piece of equipment on it. Certain fire things, we need to take it because it has certain specialized equipment on it. And that's what it is. It's not designed to carry a lot of people. It's designed to transfer those. It's a rolling toolbox. It's a big toolbox that carries our tools.
Are you gonna surplus the old one?
Yes, we will, once it comes in. Yes, and I mean, hopefully, we can be able to sell it and get some money out of it. The truck, like I said, is a 18 to 24 month lead time. The only thing we'll need to do now is we will enter into the contract now with Atlantic Coast. Once the chassis arrives at the plant to start being built, then we would actually pay for the chassis, which will be around $130,000, which gives us a little savings right there, but not much. I mean, it's a couple $1,000 that it gives us for going ahead and paying for it then. And then, can you?
Are y'all hearing him?
Yeah, speak
Yeah,
in
are you-
a
okay.
little louder.
And we'll pay for it then. They're projecting that will be January of '26, that when that will come, and then from that time, it'll be at least 18 months or something. Can you hear me? It'll be at least, around 18 months then when the vehicle comes in. So that's what's more we have to pay for during that year. What I'm requesting, tonight is that the appropriate town personnel will be able to enter into the contract now before July, and which the manufacturer had said that they will see another price increase coming.
Who is authorized now?
Do I?
Who is authorized now to sign the contract?
That amount would be the town manager or the mayor. It's $500,000.
So who else do we need?
Do it.
Who else do we need?
No, I
We
think
have
he's
to-
just
we have to
looking
approve
for.
Oh, you don't want an additional person, you
He's
just
just
want
looking for
to say?
permission to do it.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna,
Yes,
this much you wanna,
Right.
yeah, we'll need one of y'all.
Yeah, and just so we're clear on the spending plan, so right now, Mr. Watson tells us that we can afford that, but we'll take a budget amendment in January. And then when we do the later, purchase for the remainder, we plan to generally finance that truck, but we'll see if we can pay some more down and finance less, or, pay some more cash, and look for, because we have financed trucks in the past, and it's not a big step, but I want to make sure that the board is aware of our spending plan. The purpose of today is to get permission to move forward and to save us, was it 5% or 10%?
It's a small percentage, it's like 3%, but they're projecting at least a 5 to 10%
Yeah, that's what I was
increase
saying.
again.
The
in
increase would
July.
be 5 or 10%, so be a big savings just to act now and to make the commitment, so we're looking to take advantage of that.
I think if y'all remember, when we originally started talking about this 2 years ago, we were talking 430 to 450,000, and we're already at 514,000. So that just shows you
Yeah,
the
it's going up.
Where did they assemble this? Where do they assemble it?
Well, this one will be assembled in Pennsylvania. Yeah, Pennsylvania.
Was this in our budget for this year, or is this an amendment to our budget?
That,
Did you request this already in our budget when we had the planning retreat, or is this something that
it's been requested in the budget retreat, so it sounds like, but since it was the lead time so long, it will be actually paid for in another budget. So that's the reason
Oh,
that
okay.
the
That's why we're-
manager and the finance, if the chassis comes in January, like they project, we'd have to do a budget amendment then, and then we'd use that cost savings or
Okay.
however. it is.
We'd already allotted for it, which just, there's a change because
Right,
of the
it's just-
time.
It's just
Okay.
another budget down the road before it
Yeah.
had to be paid for.
And then we had one, but it's old.
We still got one. We got one 24
But it
years
does,
old. It's
will we
sitting
get any new equipment to go with it? I mean, will it come with any of these new things, or it's just the truck itself?
We will it will be the truck. The only thing that will come on it, it will have what we call a new hydraulic pump on it. The pump that is actually on the truck that we have now is part of the truck. It's built into the truck. So this truck will have that new pump in it and a light tower. But other than that, it's just the frame and the top, and we'll take the equipment off of this truck and put it on.
Yeah. And we need it because it's The other one's out of date, or it's old, or?
Because of its age and
Age.
its maintenance issues.
Oh,
and
okay.
just, I
You've
mean,
had a lot to do,
we're-
okay.
We're continuing to
Lot
work
of
on it.
miles on it.
24-year-old truck out here running around,
Wow,
you know, that's
okay.
a
Didn't realize it was that old.
30,000-pound truck going up
Yeah,
down the road.
okay.
It wears, the doors wears on it, everything. I mean, the suspension on it, and everything just wears.
Okay.
And you gotta remember, these trucks still aren't, these trucks are driven from zero to wide open to
Yeah.
stop. I mean, a fire truck's different than another truck that you go out and just ease along. I mean, you get in them and you go. It goes from cold to wide open. That's not good on any piece of equipment.
And it would serve both stations if we needed it,
Absolutely. We don't have but one right now.
right now?
And we serve,
Oh.
matter of fact, it serves both areas and helps in mutual aid calls too.
If you saw in the news where the car ran into the lake over at the shopping center, Kohl's Shopping Center, isn't that where it was?
Mhm.
Who was the first one there?
Yeah, there it is.
And it was
It was
Aberdeen.
that truck. Matter of fact, it was that truck.
It was that truck. Now, that's in Southern Pines.
Yeah.
So
Us,
Aberdeen,
we have a mutual aid agreement between all our fire departments down here, and anytime it's a heavy rescue or a serious rescue, we dispatch 2 rescue units. So Southern Pines, if we got one here, they'll come to us and then we cancel them. And especially it works very good in that area, right up in the north end of ours and the south end of theirs, where sometimes we beat them there and sometimes they beat us to theirs, ours. I mean,
Where's the lake you're talking about, Mayor?
In front of Coles.
the Kohl's.
Oh.
where,
Car drove into the retention
it's
pond over
retention
the next
pond.
outback.
Yeah, it's right there where, you turn in off of, 15501 where,
On the left.
Outback.
yeah,
Outback
where
on the corner
Outback
is
is.
across the
Yeah,
street.
yeah,
Yes.
if you turn in where Outback is, that
That
retention pond's on the left.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
And a car ran into it, with people in it.
It's merged.
It went
Wow.
underwater, almost all the way underwater, I think, and
Yeah, just
The-
the back end.
the first, that heavy truck was from Aberdeen, that's the first one that got there. That same, thing we're trying to discuss right now.
I'll make the motion that we approve the purchase of a new heavy rescue fire truck with Atlantic Coast Fire Trucks in the amount of $514,500 and
Second.
authorize the staff to sign the documents.
Second.
I second,
Motion in several seconds.
right.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, close out B, go to C, consider approval of an ordinance declaring temporary road closures on December 13th, 2025 for the 2025 Winter Wonderland 5K.
It's cute.
Good evening, y'all. So I'm just here to introduce Megan. She's looking to reintroduce a holiday 5K, and partially we need a road closure for that. It would be in conjunction with our Christmas parade. So any questions you have for her, she's here to answer those, as well as any parade questions.
Hello, thank you for taking time to speak with us tonight. We really appreciate it. Like Casey said, my name is Megan McDonald. My event experience is I was the previous event coordinator for the Village of Pinehurst for 7 years. When I left that role, my friend and former coworker Emily and I approached Adam Crocker about potentially bringing back a winter 5K. We felt it was a beloved event in the community. Ended around the COVID time. I believe the old organizers moved. We'd love to, bring our hearts and souls into that race and bring it back into Aberdeen, and hopefully continue to build on a legacy that they already built, but make some changes and make it our own. So that's why we've changed the name to Winter Wonderland. We are keeping the course the same. We've made a slight adjustment. The course would be completely the same except for we're going to take Maple Avenue all the way from Sycamore to Bethesda, where before it turned and cut onto Fayetteville and Blue. But other than that, it's just so we can line up the start and finish line a little closer. The whole course is the same. We did have a very productive meeting with PD, Fire, and Recreation, who were able to give us our feedback. We were able to make some adjustments to what we are hoping to bring to Aberdeen. We've spoken a lot with Lindy. We want to be a great partner with the town of Aberdeen and with the business association and the businesses downtown to make sure that this all can work together, and then of course have a nice cohesive event with the recreation parade.
I know in the past, when they did this, they used the fellowship hall with the church down here. Are you in contact with them?
Not yet. So we first wanted to go ahead and get the approval. I have Adam linked us up with some old coordinators with the race, so not the true
Yeah.
coordinators of the race, but somebody who does have a connection and a relationship with that church.
Okay.
We have not, I've asked her to hold back until we made sure we had
Yeah.
approval before
Sure.
approaching them.
Yeah.
But yes, that is in
That's where we went
consideration.
to pick up our registration and
Yeah, that's where,
everything.
that's
Yes.
where they were, the registration
Yeah.
was in the
I've done it
fellowship hall.
once, and then after that, they quit having it, so I was
Yeah.
excited to
Yeah.
hear you guys were bringing
I
it
think
back, or
COVID
something similar.
Kind of killed it at some point, and the organizers moved to Spain, is that not right?
I believe so.
They moved to
Oh,
Spain.
right.
Yep.
So what are the roads that need to be closed again?
So I'm gonna flip to it.
They haven't-
Oh, there.
It's on there.
Yeah, so I know some of this will also intertwine with DOT or railway as well, and so we have worked with Adam, who's gonna help us make those requests as well. So we have Poplar Street, Peach Ave, Sycamore Street, Maple Street, Bethesda Ave, PD Road, NC 211, East Main Street, and West Main Street. We do want an extended road closure, which you'll see on, I believe it's, for me, it's my last page, but we want to close West Main Street from Poplar to Sycamore through the end of the parade. So we basically are hoping to invite hundreds of runners down. We want to keep them downtown, so we want to give them a safe place to view the parade, and then we'll reopen that road following parade. So that's the only road that will stay open from the start of the race to the end of the parade. All other roads will open. PD will make those decisions as well on when those open and reclose.
So what time would the parade start?
The parade is at 11, Casey? 11.
Starts at 11, and our parade usually starts at I mean-
Parade starts at 11.
11, and what
That's
time will the run start?
The run will start at 8:30.
8:30, so they'll be through running, and everybody will be back in their places where the parade
correct.
takes place. So none of these roads will inhibit people from parking to get to the parade. That would only be my concern.
That's correct. And so we are also going to work with the Recreation Department to have a satellite parking lot that we will encourage runners to park at, and we have a shuttle that, we haven't booked it yet, but we have a company that
Yeah.
we're ready to run a shuttle. And then Recreation is going to continue that shuttle through the end of the parade, so that parade participants also have a satellite location
Okay.
should there be some issues parking.
Yeah, Casey and Adam will make sure it all gets coordinated correctly. If they say
That's
it's
right.
good, yeah, that's,
Joe, you gonna let the commissioners park at Public Works? So we have somewhere to get in for the parade.
that's right. We'll have to,
I'm sure we can find you guys a good spot for that.
If you've never stood down here at the stoplight and looked up Poplar Street and see thousands of people running up Poplar Street, it's a sight to see. If you've never seen
It is.
I've done it.
it, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I hated it when they quit it, but
Yeah.
everybody understood what happened, so
And it was
hopefully this will bring it back and
It's so fun to
Continue.
see all the costumes,
you.
how they really dress up,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
wear their reindeer gear, and they
Yeah.
go all out, you know, so it really makes it much more festive activity with the parade going on.
Yes. And that's our goal as well.
Yeah.
I
to
know
keep
in the
that.
past they did one for the small children. Are they gonna do that this year?
We're not going to do that the first year. We do
Okay.
hope to bring that back, but we feel this will be the first year that it's on the same day as the Aberdeen Parade. It was formerly on the same day as the Southern Pines Parade.
Yeah.
So people would get out really quickly to go to that parade.
Yep, yep.
So just for our first year, we're going to keep it simple and do just the 5K, but
Yeah.
that is our goal in the future. to be
That
able to
was a
bring back
problem
kids.
in the past
Yeah.
because of Southern Pines Christmas Parade. All these thousands of people in town, and you turn around and look, they're gone because they
Right.
got in their cars and took off up to Southern Pines and kind of left Aberdeen just with nothing, is what it
Sure.
amounted to. So this is an improvement.
Great. I'm happy to hear that.
So you need a motion to for road closures. Is that what we need?
Yeah,
A motion?
the last one.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance declaring temporary road closures on December 13th, 2025 for the 2025 Winter Wonderland 5K.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for all
you,
that work.
guys. Thank you for your time.
Close C and go to other business. Who's got other business? You have other business? Yes, ma'am.
No, I just brought some pictures. When I moved down here about 20 years ago, and in 2003, then 2004, less than a year, I'd been here less than a year, and the train tipped over.
Derailed.
Yes, I just derailed, and so I wanted to kind of show pictures. I took the pictures, and we were saying that we haven't been here a year now.
Did you cause it?
Paul, did you?
That, those cars that tipped over came
I shouldn't have
real
said tipped
close
over, derailed.
to hitting the train station. You remember that?
I remember.
Those cars came real close to taking out the train station,
Oh, yeah.
the ones that tipped off,
Yeah.
fell off the track. And didn't we have someone hurt from the fire department or police department? I remember someone was hurt over there.
They don't do well when they're on the tracks.
Yeah, they tend to want to stay on the track if they can. Anyone else?
I was just gonna say, there's been a lot of development out at Pinehurst number 10, as they call it, sand mines. They've got a couple of buildings up. They're not quite finished on the inside, but if you haven't been out there and looked, it looks really nice.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the buildings there,
Mm-hmm.
there are, one's the clubhouse, and I'm not sure what the other one is.
The restaurant, there's gonna be a restaurant there.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, there's actually two buildings,
Mhm.
yeah.
So,
Anyone else? Chief, would you come up and give us a summary of where we are with the new library?
and the kids have been meeting at the postmaster's house for special,
They did today.
events.
reading.
Yeah,
Reading
for reading.
day. They had a
Okay,
reading
that's
day.
nice.
I'm gonna pass this here down, just something for you to look at.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Oh, that's nice.
construction's going along, normal. It is starting to pick up a little bit. We got our interior doors in. We got a plan and an order in on to getting the floor leveled. We're still waiting on the flooring that got sent off to Texas to get cut into those patterns to come back. So that's kind of a little hold up. Right after the, July 4th, we'll be able to go in and the grid, they'll do an overhead inspection. And the grid works in and the panels are here, they're just not been installed. We have to wait until the inspection's done. And we have to wait until the lighting, the electrician wants to actually cut his can lights into but once you see that, it'll close the building on the end and start looking like a finished product on the inside. I still say we'll be finished early, but we'll be sitting around for a little while waiting on front and rear doors, which we knew that was gonna be with those custom doors being built and come in. What I'm sending around to you right now is for you just to look at is, it was discussed in the original drawings that there wasn't an awning to go over the front to protect people when they come in and out, and it also protect those mahogany doors. This is just one of the designs that the architect, he said, going with the curvature of the brick oval windows above the doors, that might be good to go along with something like that, but we'll, hopefully, during our break, because this will be our last board meeting until,
August.
this will be our last board meeting until we, come back in August, that this decision will be made. But this is just some kind of ideas to let y'all know where we're at with it and the way that we're going, that will be added on and into it. See if you got any, feedback now or anything on that. That'll be the only other visible change to the outside of the building that'll be done. Everything else will be pretty much within what the normal plans were.
How far will that awning extend out?
3 to 4 foot is what we said today. And, you remember, what we don't want to do is dump a bunch of water onto that I don't wanna say the patio, but the walkway on the front, because that's gonna be bricks that are sold. So they're trying to come up with something a little bit different than that.
I think everyone's probably seen the railing on the loading dock side,
What?
the railing.
Yes, and the
That's on-
railings outside.
The
we've
railing,
been into.
has everyone seen that so far?
Mm-hmm.
That's, to me, that's gonna be a huge plus when people can come out and sit
Right.
It
on,
will, I
on
think
that.
it will be
And
too.
I'm gonna have my chair out there first thing. It's gonna be great because you can sit there and see everything going on in downtown
All
Aberdeen.
of all the railing is not installed yet, so
No.
if you ride by, it's done on the top part, but the walkway's not done. So
No.
there won't be just an opening there. I had somebody ask me earlier, it'll be completely enclosed in all the way down there.
Yeah, they haven't finished the walkway, so that railing hadn't been installed yet. And, if you haven't been in a couple of weeks, there's a big difference in there. If you go in, I was in there last week and they were hanging the doors. And just the fact that you have doors and openings, it changes the appearance. And so they were in there, putting up some sheet rock that had not been done. So every time you go in, it's different. It looks a whole lot different when you,
I haven't seen it since.
well, if you haven't been in a while, you won't recognize it.
You gonna be in there tomorrow? There are gonna be people around working
We're there
tomorrow?
every day. Now,
Every
I
day.
will say with the heat, the way it is right now, they're working up about lunchtime. But if for some reason you wanna go in there and ain't there, just call me, I'll meet you there. Myself or Timmy will be more than glad to go over there.
Usually if I'm coming downtown for whatever reason I'm coming, if I see a truck out there, I stop. I want to see what they're doing. And, go in and watch them. It's slow, but it's getting there. I mean, it starts and stops as any construction does. But, it's coming along, and when that thing is finished, it's going to really
Come a long way.
mean a whole lot to the town of Aberdeen. And we're so thankful for all those that have participated in doing this. It's going to change everything. And this morning, at the managers and mayors meeting in Pine Bluff with a lot of other towns, I brought up the fact that the Little Page Library, in my research, I don't know if somebody else can do this and find out, I think it's still maybe the oldest continuous public library in the same building. It's 118 years old. I don't know where else you can go to find one that's in the same building. Now, there may be older libraries, and there are, but they're not in the same building. So somewhere along the line, we've got to make sure we can do something with that building so we don't lose the history of it, is what I'm saying. We got to do something in the future to preserve the history of it. If we lock the door, it's no longer the oldest continuous library in the same building.
That's right.
And I think some of the research, they found out that the first public library was in, where was it, Durham or somewhere like that, 1879 or whatever. But so many of these, all of them are not in the same building. I mean, we may have the oldest one still in the same building. The longest, 118 years, is a long time ago. And the fact that we're getting closer to the end, we're looking towards what, September? Maybe
I would say
August,
mid-September.
September, maybe September.
I mean, the contract allows for longer than that, but the way
Yeah.
things are going, hopefully, I don't wanna ever.
No,
lock
no,
into
no,
a
no,
date because
you can't predict everything, but it's sort of like, I think the anticipation, and I thought about this, is, when you were young and your parents put up the Christmas tree, well, that's not Christmas. Then you start asking, well, when is Christmas? When is Christmas? When's Santa Claus coming? That's kind of like the feeling on this library over here, because the anticipation, we're still waiting to get this thing open. It's going to be a red letter day in town. And I joked, well, I hate to use that term, excuse me. I asked the Pinehurst mayor about their new library. And he said, I think they were going to, what did you say, Paul? They're going to do the contract.
35, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It was down the road.
It's down the road, but, and he joked me back, if that's the term I want to use. He said, and ours won't be the oldest library in North Carolina, because they're getting ready to start the Pinehurst Library. And, you know, they've been talking about that for years. We're gonna have ours done and open before they ever get theirs started, probably. So, anyway, we're looking forward to the library and all those from A to Z that's been participating in this, the Friends of the Library. We got 2 members here. So much has gone into this to get it to where we are now. But if you haven't been in it lately, if you see a truck out there, stop and walk in. And if you need a key to get in, Chief's got a key.
If you'll contact me, myself or Timmy, we're over there every day. One of us is there every day.
It's worth going in to see, and I think anybody in town is going to be excited. I'm excited about it, and it's going to really enhance.
all excited
It's going to really enhance the town when we get this open.
Long wait,
Yeah, so it's been a while getting here,
a long time.
and the other part of this is the fact it's we're repurposing an old building.
Yes.
I think that helps out, because if not, we would have had to build a building somewhere, and it wouldn't look, we couldn't even put it in downtown Aberdeen. There's nowhere to put a new building to open a library. So we're fortunate that we had the old building to start with, because if not, where would you have put a new library? Well, maybe on that property on the hill up there, but they're going to use that, they're going to repurpose that for other things, the Friends of the Library. Isn't that correct? One of them's going to be a reading garden,
It'll be a nice garden.
reading garden with the
It'll fit
fountain.
right in and flow right together with the existing library in the park, and it'll
Yeah.
be connected to our Main Street park. It'll all
It
just
backs
one
right up
area,
to the other,
nice area.
Has a pergola.
and we will still be looking forward to it. So any other comments about the library?
When do
Yep.
we take ownership of that park, or when does it become part of the town?
Well, as soon as the committee meets, they'll be ready.
Yeah, 'cause we
They won't
accepted it.
complete it. They still got some
Oh,
more
okay.
work to do done, but once the work is finished over there, you know, it's going how quick the work goes on. I mean, we could see it as early as the end of this year, the first of next year sometime, but they'll.
I was
Yeah.
just curious, I know.
Yeah.
Do y'all have
No
any-
big deal, I just
Yeah.
wondered if, you know, when it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
over.
I don't know
Our
that.
landscape
What
planner
you're
for the
talking about,
town,
I know the answer to that,
he's
but
worked
I-
hard on it.
Yeah,
We're
already
hoping
Our
September.
minutes of the-
worked very hard at it
Yeah.
and put a lot of hours in and a lot of
We're
dedication.
looking towards September.
To transfer the land is what you're saying?
Oh, no, I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Do you know anything about it? It's tentative. I'm not
Okay,
sure when
that's
it'll be
fine.
transferred. Then it'll be transferred to the town. Yeah. But this is gonna change downtown.
It is,
And
it truly is.
We still don't have a definitive answer on a librarian, a media specialist, right? I don't know that we've got a definitive answer on that.
Well, we know it's half funded now as the budget was approved by the county, but there's been talk about additional funding for the
yeah,
position.
I spoke with Commissioner Ritter not long ago, and just touched base and asked him, you know, please consider doing as much as you can, we would like more, yeah,
Well, I spoke to a commissioner just the other day,
Did you?
a county
Yeah.
commissioner,
yeah.
and just said that we
And they were
we
excited.
we
Yeah.
want a full-time.
Yeah, he
lib-
brought it up to me, and he was
librarian.
excited about it. He said, I
Yeah.
feel like you guys have got a great project going over there.
We've
yeah.
got to have a full-time librarian. You can't run it with a part-time. It's too big. It's over 4,000 square feet.
4,000 square feet.
Obviously, you've got, and you really can't do it with one person. I mean, I guess you can, but it'd be nice if it was 1.5 at least. That's a big building.
Mhm. I
And
told him
one
that,
person
yeah.
in there by themselves with a 4,000 square foot building probably ain't gonna work. I mean, you're gonna have somebody, either volunteers or a part-time, half-time or whatever. Because we've never had to deal with this, because the one over here at the Page is not there but what, just a few hours a week, isn't it? The librarian at Page.
Mhm.
So somewhere along the line, we've got to address the fact that it needs to be full-time and maybe a part-time. I personally don't feel comfortable with one person in that 4,000 square foot building. It's too many people coming in and out. It would probably wear somebody out trying to keep it going. And I don't know about the other ones that the county, funds, I don't know. Do you know about them, Tracy?
Not specifically.
Okay.
I know Commissioner Paserno has been in the Arctic Circle, so I haven't been able to talk to him lately.
Yeah.
But we did meet. Tim and I saw Commissioner Ritter and shared our concerns
Yeah, well,
recently.
I think, well, that would be 3 of the 5 that's been approached, as far as
Yeah.
I know. If you know any of the county commissioners, if you pass by one or have an inkling to talk to one, or call one, mention the fact that we've got to have a full-time person. It would help if we did, and then if we needed a half-time, that may be something that the town could look into. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know if that's how this will work or not, but anyway, thank you for that update on the library. We're all anticipating this. It's getting close to September. And if you see work trucks out there, just stop and walk in. That's what I've been doing most of the summer. And the truck that was there this morning, Paul and I went to Pine Bluff, and when I came back, it was gone, so I didn't get to go in today. I was gonna walk in this morning, but when I got back, and it's got to be 200 degrees in there because there's no air, the windows don't open. So what they've been doing is opening the front and back door. Do they have a fan in there, do you know? No fan in there. So I expect they don't get past midday because of the heat in there. Yeah, all right, so anybody else?
I was just going to say, several of us attended third Thursday, and that seemed to be a success. I enjoyed it. Hope everybody will continue. It's going all the way through till September at the Y down here beside High Octane. Music,
Yep.
food trucks,
It was a good day down there.
Engine 91.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Anything else? Wilma? Commissioner?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
A motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?